Hey, I'm excited today. We've got some good friends. I'll intro them. They are a power couple. I've known them for a long time. They are pastors, church planners, business owners, and they've got more kids than I can count. And they are amazing, salt of the earth people who I love, and we've helped each other through the life of ministry. And I wanted to bring them on today to specifically talk about content strategy, content creation, because they are in this space. This is a part of what they do. But I also want to bring them on because they are planning a church, and they have been a part of big churches, small churches, and they're planning a church. So they have good perspective for this, for our calls. And so I think they'll be able to really speak to everybody that's watching now and will watch in the future, because they're not, I think sometimes when you hear from people that have only been in one context or one church, it's hard to speak into other church sizes and context. So they've done it all. And so I'm going to let them just kind of do a brief intro, say hi, and then we'll let them jump in and start the call.
Hey, Chandler, thanks for the introduction. Really appreciate you, believe in you. You are a person I love to call whenever we need SEO or honestly any marketing things. I remember even when Youth Pastor Roundtable started, we started it. I was like, I need to call Chandler because he knows everything. And Youth Pastor Roundtable started as a Zoom call in the early 2020, just trying to help youth pastors. Everyone was lost, and we were just sticking along, being faithful with the Zoom call. And soon that Zoom call grew to over 750 youth pastors trying to get on Zoom. And then God gave us a vision to inspire and equip 10,000 youth pastors to invest in 100,000 students to reach 1 million kids for Jesus. And we gave our lives to that thing for 3 years. And we saw that thing really hit every major marker this year, at least from a vanity metric standpoint. And then earlier this year, my wife and I started feeling a stir to do more local church stuff. And we always thought we would plant a church. We just never knew the when or the where. And we just really had a word from the Lord and submitted it to our pastor. And he was all in with us and full support. And within that last year, my wife and I started a business. I'll let her talk a little bit about it, but it's a creative studio called Good and Faithful. We're a values-based business. Everything we do is good, come on, high quality, faithful, on time. Y'all know, working with creatives. And so we just have given our lives to being found good and faithful to the local church and ultimately to God. So every time we have someone come on our calls, I always jump in and share our values. But I'll let Connor talk a little bit more about the business and do a quick intro.
Hello, I'm Connor. So the business is, we really do a lot of graphic design and content creation for churches. So we do social media management. And one of the things that we're going to talk about a little bit more in depth in a minute is also doing our senior pastors' social media, or if you're a youth pastor, what your social media could look like, different things like that. But one of the things we're really passionate about is the church online, and especially in social media is kind of our niche. What your Instagram looks like, what your Facebook is looking like, and how to attract people to your church via social media content, and what type of content your church should be creating, different things like that. So that's something we've been working on for a few years. And obviously algorithms change all the time. Social media changes. Look at Twitter and X, things change all the time. And so it's something that's constantly having to shift and mold. And so it's a space that we like to stay in and learn and be innovative, try new things and test out different things as they come out with reels, they come out with different things. And so that's just something we're really passionate about. So I'll kind of let Chris start, and then it'll come back to me. And I'll
Chandler, you want me to just run? Because I can go.
Run it. Okay. Let's run it.
Okay. So I guess as I'm planning a church, I've been a lead pastor officially for 3 weeks. So obviously a lot of this is really fresh. And, but what I do have right now is I have the perspective of not having a bad perspective or a previous perspective. So a lot of what I think about, and I wanted to just bring some thoughts to the table and then maybe get into some more heavy application. And Connor's going to talk more about the senior pastor, the pastor's account, and she'll kind of get into that. But I wanted to just kind of hit on a couple things. And I'm going to give you today, I'm not kidding, this is the biggest church social media hack I have ever found and ever heard of. And if you do this today, I'm not kidding. This would be a game changer for your church. So I'm going to end with that, and then I'll let Connor go. So first thing is, and I see them all laughing. They're like, Chris, that's a pretty big promise, but I'm telling you, it's gonna pay off, because it's going crazy for me. First thing is this. I'm really concerned about the churches leaning on borrowed data instead of owned data. It concerns me because I've seen TikTokers lose, Christian TikTokers and Christian influencers lose 1 million followers overnight on their social media platforms because they didn't play in the way that that platform wanted them to play. And I think that there's a lot of tension right now. And I'll define borrowed data and owned data. There's a lot of tension right now, even with Elon Musk and X and what's being allowed on X that you could never say on Facebook or TikTok or Instagram. And so each platform has their own rules that they play by, and it's not moderated by government. It's they're trying to bring moderation and trying to bring different things. But here's an example. Donald Trump had a Twitter account, and his Twitter account was banned for good reason, bad reason. Ultimately, it was banned because he wasn't playing within the rules of the social media platform. Now, TikTok, for instance, I know an influencer who had 1 million followers on TikTok. His social media was banned because he was talking about, he actually went through the physical, medical, what Jesus went through on the cross. So he was talking about death and, being murdered by our sin and, and nails in his hand. And TikTok's like, no, this is too graphic for TikTok. And so they banned his account. And so what basically happens is overnight, these people could lose 1 million followers. That means ultimately, I don't ever want to say that social media won't be nice to the church, but if it's ever not nice to the church, all of your followers could be gone tomorrow. And when we think about it in that sense, we have to start thinking instead of borrowed data. See, borrowed data is if you are on someone's platform and you're posting content, those accounts have emails linked to them, right? An Instagram account, in order to get an Instagram account, you have to put an email, and then you have your account, and then you can interact with photos and videos. But you don't own their information. In fact, you have to play by their rules to get them to show your content to their people. So social media, all of them are actually exactly the same. And if I could help every pastor realize that it's all borrowed data, and the point of social media long-term has to be moving people from the social media platform to your platform where you can own their emails, where you can own their phone numbers, because you get a 93% within the first 5-minute open rate on a text, or you have a lot better return on investment on an email than you do on a post. If you send an email, and this sounds so dumb, I'm talking about email marketing, but listen, if you do a post on Instagram and you have 1,000 followers, you might get 100 likes, and they might show it to 300 people. If you think about the odds, they're showing it to 30% of your audience, and only 10% of your audience is engaging with it. If you send an email, you are well over 60% that will see it, or 100% will see that you sent them an email, and then 100% will send them an email. They'll see your email. 60% may open it. 20% may click through it. You'll always have a better click-through rate on your email marketing and on your text marketing than you ever will on social media. So we have to start thinking, how are we converting our borrowed data into owned data? And the best way is always to provide value. Now, listen, you're already creating sermon series. Now, imagine a sermon series comes out. Your pastor is preaching about, love, sex, dating. And you're like, hey, let's just take his points, take those 10 points, say, hey, if you want this free 10-point guide, drop your, have a link, and then just have it, then send them the email. So you want to start thinking about, how are we gathering people's data so that we can communicate them directly? Now, that's my first thing. My second thing, this is where things start getting kind of crazy. Let me put it up. I want to talk about church apps really quickly. Now, I'll talk about this maybe again. Chandler and I were talking about this. We're going to be creating a custom app for our church plant. It sounds dumb and crazy, like, what are you doing? But for us, we have a few strategic points that we want to hit, because most church apps, people don't necessarily understand the function. A church app isn't for your outsiders. It's for your insiders. So your outsider language is essentially your website. People check your website. They're like, oh, hey, this is what this is for. I can see that this looks like this. It's usually your front door, your first impression. Your app is where someone would engage, would see your content. It's where they would give. And what we will be doing is we'll be creating custom pathways so that we can segment data, which I know I'm talking like a nerd here, but in the future, maybe I can unpack this a little bit more. But I want to say this, most church apps are a waste of time because the return on investment, even if it's free, the return on investment of updating it and keeping it going for most churches, the best church app, here we go. The best church app you could use is utilize Facebook and Facebook groups. Facebook groups this year, and this is the hack that is going to change every social media platform. This is why this is the greatest thing. And I'm going to put one and then I'm going to stack on top of it. Number one, your church should have a Facebook group. And the reason why is there is now you can use the @ sign and you can type in everyone. And then it sends every single person in your Facebook group a message that they got that there was something posted. Now, this has never existed since social media has been created. Let me help you. So you do a post on Instagram to 1,000 followers, 300 people see it, 100 people engage with it. Now on Facebook groups, if you have 1,000 people in your Facebook group, 1,000 people see it. You see what I'm saying? That all of a sudden you can send, if you have an announcement or you have something you've got to get out that's not outsider language, it's insider language. If you have a prayer night for for something like you're like, oh yeah, we're not going to put this on the Instagram. What you can do is you can run all your announcements through Facebook groups and you can @ everyone. It's that simple. It's so easy. You can even share your sermons inside of your Facebook group. It is a great way to engage your current church and engage them better than an app, unless you're really utilizing post notifications. And for most people, a Facebook group is going to be powerful. Is going to be really, really powerful. Now, I know I said I was going to get really practical, and here comes the craziest thing I've ever done. So I learned this tactic from Life Church. Life Church has over 30 unbranded accounts for their church that ultimately lead to their church. So like She Reads Truth is an Instagram account with hundreds and hundreds of thousands of followers. People are seeing it, but ultimately She Reads Truth leads into the Bible app, which then can lead into other Life Church funnels. So you're like, is She Reads Truth Life Church? Most people would say no, but they don't realize it actually is, because it's leading to their strategy. So they have over 30 accounts. They can't even tell you some of the names of the accounts because they're like, this might be offensive to some people. But what they're doing is they're niching down, creating these niche pockets where they are ultimately marketing their church. Now, in knowing that next September, my wife and I are planting a church, I started thinking about unbranded accounts. So what I've done is I've created 5 unbranded Facebook groups. Now, these Facebook groups, this is where it gets crazy because, like I said, you can @ and send it to everyone in the group. I started a Facebook group called Free Stuff in Phoenix. Y'all, I'm gatekeeping this so hard. I can't believe I'm giving this away for free. It's just because Chandler's on here. Here it comes. You can @ everyone and send everyone an invitation. So listen to this. Free Stuff in Phoenix. You don't understand this, but Facebook is the 3rd biggest search engine on the internet. People are going to Facebook, typing in Free Stuff in Phoenix. Now, there is a Free Stuff in Phoenix Facebook group, but it had an exclamation point on it, and mine doesn't. And so I just was like, yo, there's more room in the market. I was like, they got an exclamation point. I ain't got one. So I just made it Free Stuff in Phoenix Facebook group. And then I can tell you this, I started it 3 months ago. Today, there are 9,600 people in this Facebook group. 9,600. So by the time I launch a church next September, there will be 30,000 people in this Facebook group. Now, where it gets crazy is, hey, everyone, we have a free fall event @ everyone. I just sent a message to 30,000 people, almost the equivalent of having their emails. Yo, I'm telling you, this is crazy. I have Phoenix foodies. I have Phoenix, Arizona. You just kind of have to figure out what's in your area and how you can build this out. So I have a friend who has a Christmas event this year. it's it's like how the Grinch stole Christmas. And so I was like, hey bro, let me put it up. I put it up yesterday. Over 50 people have already like pretty much signed up to go to their thing who would have never gone, never been involved. And it was that simple at everyone. So the Facebook group thing, since the at everyone function has been in created, is one of the most powerful tools on social media. And I told you I'm gatekeeping this really hard. If you can find out what types of Facebook groups, and if there are ones that exist, doesn't matter. And what I did at first to help launch the Facebook group, this is another hack. Chandler, I'm giving this stuff away. Here we go.
Dude, this is actually really good.
This is the other hack. This is how I got people in the group. So I had ChatGPT write me a message that I would send to people. I would tie in a radius on Facebook Marketplace, because you can direct message people on Facebook Marketplace and it doesn't go to their message requests. It goes to their messages. So what I would do is I would turn this circle in Central Phoenix, and I would type in free in Phoenix, and then this circle would pop up. And what I would do is I would copy paste. I would make sure I put their name in it, and then I would send them this message, and it was something like, we want to create a beautiful ecosystem. You know, we don't want to throw stuff away. We want to make a beautiful city and make a difference. You know, it was like ChatGPT wrote this thing. I was like, wow, this is actually so much better than what I would have written. And I'm not kidding you. People say, thank you so much for sending me this. I'm in. I'm like, okay, like it's working. And so I just went through Facebook Marketplace, and Facebook Marketplace doesn't ding you like Messenger does, because Messenger, you have to have someone's friend. You have to be someone's friend to send them a message. On Facebook Marketplace, you send it to anyone. They're the ones who posted it. So essentially, I went around Facebook Messenger rules by going into Facebook Marketplace, and then built out my audience from there. And essentially, once you start hitting 1,000, 2,000 people in a Facebook group, every single day, I have 100+ people joining this group, and I don't even do anything. All I do is hit approve, 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 approve. All the content in the group put by people in the group. Approve, 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 deny, deny, approve, approve. I just set the rules, and the group is taking off, and I will use that group to piggyback and make new groups and new stuff. So that's the hack that I've never heard anyone talk about. And I will probably be selling this on my own someday, but y'all just got it for free. So Connor,
That's crazy.
Connor,
Any
do you want
questions?
to talk social-
Any
you have
any questions on that?
Yeah, I guess I have one. Like when you're thinking through the unbranded groups, what kind of content are you putting in the unbranded groups versus what would be on like your church page? So like She Reads Truth, He Reads Truth obviously is geared towards people who want to read the Bible better, which makes a great funnel into a church. But free stuff in Phoenix, like are you like, hey, here's some free Nikes that you can have, and then does it funnel back to your church? Like what kind of content are you putting in the unbranded group?
So I'm going to do two things, and this is my strategy. First off, I'm going to do a lead form, which will essentially, I will ask people, like, because I'm starting a church, I'm going to say, hey, what type of church would you like to see here in Phoenix? You know, that type of thing. Add everyone and get some questions. I'll have like a responsive form that like, do you currently attend a church, and basically segment out data to be able to like build our launch team out of the group. But what I'm going to be using the group for consistently in the future is more events-based things. So if you have a Christmas Eve, if you have a, Easter, you're doing Easter eggs, you're doing a fall fest, you're doing a back to school backpacks. Because you know what, it sounds crazy, but non-Christians like to be generous too. So like they might not go to your church, but they might be like, oh, I didn't even know that this school in Central Phoenix had no backpacks. Like there's a school near us. Every kid had to get a new backpack because they did a clear backpack policy. And some of these neighborhoods, it's like, they can't even afford a backpack, let alone getting a new backpack. And so, that stuff like that can resonate with people, whether it's drives, food drives, those types of things. That's how I'm going to utilize the free stuff in Phoenix group. The Phoenix Foodies eventually would love to have like a food truck event where we do like, it's kind of low hanging. We could have like a small sermon or, so like you can get kind of creative with like what type of free stuff. And then you can even do free events in Phoenix. So most of the content though, the daily content in the Facebook groups is going to be predominantly user created. So I don't create almost any content. I post maybe once a month, but I use it for those heavy hitter announcements or things I want to get out. The unbranded Instagram accounts, and I would look at like what's currently out there that like you really resonate. Is it a meme account? You know, some of those things can be a little bit more challenging because ultimately they're not as geotagged as like a Facebook group. I use that example, She Reads Truth, as an example to say, I've been thinking about how can we unbrand our church so that we can ultimately interact with people. And I felt like Facebook groups was the most powerful way to do that.
Great. Any other questions? All right, go ahead, Connor.
All right, I'm going to take a little bit of a turn and I'm going to talk about one of the other things that we've been doing with our business, but also something that we really recommend for churches. So this is a little bit different, but another marketing tactic that has been really successful in helping market the church, get the church in front of other eyes, is senior pastors' social media accounts, as well as this can also translate to youth pastor social media accounts, or, you know, anyone who's leading in the church. It could be the executive, anyone. I say senior pastor because that's kind of the way we market it with our business, but this really can be for anyone. So I'm kind of give you a practical breakdown as well of what exactly we do and how we do this. But what we really look at is the pastor's accounts are the approachable versions of the church. So this is not where you're posting church content all the time. You're not just posting the same thing that your church is posting. If your church is posting like more like announcements, kind of billboard style, that's not something you just want to share every day to the personal accounts, to the pastor's accounts. This is something where you want to be like, you know, a lot of people, especially the younger generation, they're not even going to look up your website before they come to your church. They're going to pull up your social media first. And that might be the only thing that they look at. And so if they're looking at your social media, they look up your church, what they're going to do next is look at who's the pastor. And they're going to go look at the pastor's accounts, or they're going to look at the youth pastor if they have kids, or whatever it is. So the importance of our personal social media is very high, and also a platform that we can utilize really well. So if yours is private, that's totally fine. But if you want to utilize it as a platform, that's something that is really incredible and something that we've seen a lot of success with. So here's some kind of vision and practical. So for one of our accounts that we run for a senior pastor, his three main topics that he likes to hit for his personal social media is supporting local schools and mental health and addiction issues and the crisis that, you know, in his city of that topic. And he also likes to talk about the unity of churches and pastors and how important that is. And so what we do is we really see, okay, those are the main 3 points that we want to hit very consistently. Between those things, what are we posting? Because we want to post consistently so that we're consistently getting new engagement. We're consistently doing something, even if it's something small, seemingly meaningless, it's still a post that's going to create more eyes and engagement towards our senior pastor's account. And then coincidentally, also that's going to lead to the church account. And so some of the practical steps that we take to make this happen is we do a bi-weekly call with the pastor. So if we're managing this person's account, we'll do like a bi-weekly 30-minute meeting where we'll sit down. What we'll look at is that pastor's personal calendar on their phone. And we'll say, okay, is your wife's birthday coming up? Is your kid's birthday coming up? Do you have a kid's soccer game this weekend? Did you buy a new dog? Like, what is going on in your personal life over these next 2 weeks? What can we prepare for? Do you have an anniversary? Do you have anything personal? Are you speaking at something outside of your church that we can promote? Or do you have like, do you want to do an appreciation post for someone? And we come up with different ideas. And oftentimes we try to turn those into reels because reels are going to perform better. And then one of the other things that we're going to look at is their camera roll. So we look at, okay, what do you have from the last 2 weeks in your camera roll that we could take and potentially use as content? So a lot of people will have random little videos of their kids that seem like not something you really would post. But if you look at it, or with a little bit of tweaking or a little bit of editing, add some words, add a voiceover or something like that, you can create some actual really good content, even with something that seems kind of mundane or meaningless, you know, putting some thought into it and, you know, figuring out how we can use that as content. So calendars and camera roll is a really big thing to look at. And even if you're like, okay, I need to be more serious about social media myself, even sitting down and taking this 30 minutes, like a week, to look at your personal calendar and your personal camera roll and saying, what here can I use? Is there a way that I can make this work? Or do I need to be more intentional about capturing content in my daily life? And so what we do is we really try to get intentional content. So it's not just like our pastors are posting photos of their dogs every day. It's really intentional content, and it's really relatable content and inspirational content. So for example, if you're like, hey, I need you to make something for content, you could be like, hey, a picture in the gym, like that's something really common, blah, blah, blah. But what if you recorded yourself going into the gym at 4:30 saying, hey, it's 4:30, I'm going to the gym, I didn't feel like coming today, blah, blah, blah. But then at the end, you're able to walk out and you're able to video yourself again and say, actually, you know what? I did it. I'm done. I'm so glad I came. And that's one reel right there where, it's kind of like a before and after content creation in that sense, where it's a little bit inspiring, but it's also vulnerable and it's also very relatable. Stuff like that is what we kind of lean into, and helping our pastors get some content ideas like that just by looking at other people, not necessarily looking at church accounts, but looking at other people, looking at influencers, looking at people on TikTok. How do they sit there and record themselves sitting still? Are they moving? Are they getting out of their car? How can we capture eyes, and like stimulate someone visually and mentally at the same time to be giving you quality content? So you're not just looking at a picture of your pastor's dog every day that you don't care about, or something that's like, you could post a picture of the dog sometime and be like, I feel like I know our pastor better because I know what his dog looks like. So it is still valuable, but things like that, kind of looking at how can you mix it up. And so that's kind of the gist of what we do for social media, and something that we really recommend to anyone who's on staff at a church to think about and utilize, how you can practically inspire by using your personal life and your personal content that you're already capturing. How can you utilize that and kind of use it on your platform? And a lot of that stuff, brings people closer in, but also it reaches a completely different audience than your church is going to reach when you're talking about people who don't follow you, seeing your content, and then you being able to point them to the church. So it's almost like you yourself are being an off-brand account for your church. And your pastor is kind of being that, but it is also being the approachable version for the other side, for people who already know your church. So you're kind of doing both and by utilizing your personal platforms, and especially your senior pastor. So
That's great. That's great. It's like we had Christian Velez on, and he said this too, but it's in, I think Sean Cannell said it too, but it's like you are the content. Like, be the content. Just
yes.
you've got a camera on you, you've got a phone on you, be the content. Anybody else have this is great. Anybody have any questions, anything, clarity about whether they talked about, or anything just you're currently dealing with right now? The Facebook group thing is just, it's boggling my mind right now. Like I'm just like, why?
Did I deliver? Was that a deliver?
What are we talking about? I mean, yeah. I mean, because you could, well, I'm yeah, because it's like you could almost take it to another level and make it, make a page and create content around it, and have a double, even run ads about, if you want to invest in it around the content, and then leading people to the group, and then getting even more people into the group. I mean,
they just,
even if
you can run Facebook ads on groups now. They just rolled it out in the last month. You can you can promote groups now, which there are large Facebook groups that are like prayer or this. The piece is figuring out how to localize it so you can ultimately see people, unless you really want like a online campus. It's like spread out, which is fine. But if you want it to ultimately lead to in person, and I think that's the piece that most people have to talk about as far as from a data standpoint, is I don't say quality of the giver because of a percentage or how quality God sees them. I just say that as like a business standpoint, that like people generally give more if they're in person. And so ultimately you have to think return on investment, cost, and do those types of analysis. I get in trouble sometimes in church settings when they're like, Chris, you're too businessy. And so hopefully that wasn't.
No, I mean, listen, in one of the calls that we talked about emails, I was talking about because they have they have multiple platforms where AI will scrape LinkedIn and some of these platforms, and then you can warm these emails up. So you can basically like cold email people. So, I was joking about, man, what if we could create a strategy where you're cold emailing people and invite, even inviting something like this, but reaching out to people in your communities via their emails by where they work at. And I mean, you could specifically target business owners or C-suite level people, and you could just target these people and send them emails.
Yeah.
Anyways, so I'm all for like let's whatever we can do to get in front of more people is a positive thing in my eyes.
Yeah.
That is brilliant. And the other accounts, that's smart too. I didn't even know that like She Reads Truth. I didn't even realize that was Life Church. Wow.
I think that's part of the thing too, is like, even with the Free Stuff in Phoenix group, you could essentially make it an Instagram page as well. And then you can start, like, if you had time to create content for it, where you can actually you can also turn things into the other platform if you wanted to continue building on it. Like there's one that's like Phoenix with Kids, and like they have, they're posting content Phoenix with Kids, but then there's a Facebook group for Phoenix with Kids. And so being able to feed into each other as well is like,
yeah, you could go top
Arizona
end
moms or whatever.
I like that. Let me show you guys a post. This is probably a cool ministry opportunity, but like this post, so like it came in, I don't know if you can read it, but it says, does anyone have hygiene products? Does anyone have hygiene products for women in a diaper bag for a boy mom? I'm a single mama struggling with anything, and anything could help. It's like, there are messages like this in this free group almost, every other day. And so there'll be even some really cool ministry opportunities that will come out of it, being able to help meet people's physical, tangible needs. There's some cool stuff. Anyways, I'm done.
That's cool. That's really cool. That is a brilliant idea. Anybody else got any feedback, questions, thoughts?
– Are there so like you mentioned this pastor you guys work with, and he's got his 3 top main topics, and you talked about the content that links people to the church. Are there things on the church's website that are meant to make those links together, or like link together? So like if he's talking about supporting local schools, is there then ways to like if this school does backpacks, right, for local kids, like is there intentional links between what the church is doing and what he's promoting personally?
Yes, that's absolutely a thing. So what basically happens is the things that he's chosen are those 3 main things are actually on the church website. There's a ministry called School Connect that the church supports. So often it's about posting about School Connect, what they're doing. They're doing backpack stuff, different things like that. And then the church has a resource center and also counseling services. So promoting that in also the way to like, sorry, I'm out of the breath. I had to get my charger. But to also, sorry, I ran so fast. And I'm pregnant. So I'm like, I was like, so I'm sure that looked great. But yes, so also on the website, there's information on how to get these resources. So if the pastor posts about counseling or addiction issues, there's also a link in his bio to connect to the church for that topic. So School Connect through the church, counseling resources through the church, and then the Unity of Churches. He also has a group. It's called Better Together. And so he also promotes Better Together for churches. So every time he's talking about something in one of those 3 areas, there's an easy plug towards a ministry that's connected to the church that funnels to the church. And then utilizing the link in bio properly, making sure that, the bio is not just a direct link to the website, leaving someone to go find it, but having direct links and saying the direct link is in my bio. Here's your next step from, this, or if you're struggling with this, or, he likes to share a lot of tips where he'll video himself recording. And he'll say like a 20-second thing that he's thinking about, something like that. And then from there'll be like an action step in the caption or something like that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Chris. Chris here. Had a question about your free stuff page. Like you're doing free stuff in Phoenix, and so for y'all, like Phoenix is huge. Well, we're kind of like in a small town, so like this now, but we have the very real possibility of like reaching the whole county. So is it possible to go? Can you go too big, or would it be better to have like a big page and from that like the cities within the county and stuff like that too?
You're on
You're
mute.
muted, dog.
That's a great question. In my opinion, I would, I would probably go broad, and then if it makes sense to have multiple where you can kind of narrow it down. The whole point ultimately of the strategy is to get people to walk in your door, and then and so if people in your county are used to driving and that's like part of your culture, then like you then do it. I know there's cities that are like people drive 10 minutes and they complain. It's like,
Yeah.
in Phoenix, you drive 30 minutes and everyone's like, oh yeah, that's close. It's
Yep.
like, you're my neighbor, you live 25 minutes away. And so I don't know what your county's like, but if your county's used to driving and doing that type of thing, I might start county. And because what you can do is if you have a big county website, then you can at everyone and say, at everyone, we have a new page specifically for your little town. And so you can get even more specific.
That's
And
good.
and so, I think I would start broad and then nail it down if I could, and then dial it in. But even then, if you're talking like, if you're a city of like 10,000 people, how big's your city?
I don't even know. I'd be lying if I told you.
Yeah. So if it's like, if it's 10,000 people, then, you might get 1,000 on Facebook. But if you had 1,000, like that would be insane. And so, I would start wide and then narrow it, because you can use the wide to build the narrow.
Yeah, there's a 13.2
Yeah.
as of 2021, but then the county at one point was one of the faster growing counties, 1.4 million in the
Oh,
county.
deal, bro. I would start
Yeah.
there. And then I would then start the next one. But also, I mean, the Facebook marketplace thing is going to be really key to building your group out of it.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you.
Great. Anybody else? Mhm.
Oh, this is embarrassing. I Googled Nassau County and went to New York. Nassau County, Florida is like 94,000 people.
Oh, okay.
But still pretty good.
Yeah. 94,000's a lot.
Yeah. I mean, it's not 1.4, but whatever. We'll get there.
Yeah, but you like people probably do drive there, and you never know, depending on how many. I mean, if there's not a lot of what I would
Well,
consider forward-facing, life-giving churches, people will drive a long ways for something good. We have people in Fort Worth who drive almost an hour to come to our church. Like, you really never know. I mean, I think that's why sometimes, yeah, like for instance, a part of me gets annoyed when churches run ads all over the country. Actually, what bothers me is not that they're running ads all over the country, it's that their ads are terrible and it's not content, it's not valuable. So I'm for trying to reach as many people as possible if you know what you're doing and you have content that's valuable, and you have a good message, and it's not just some graphic that says you're invited this Sunday at First Tabernacle on the Holy Hill in Shreveport, Louisiana, and it's like no one's clicking on that. Like that's
Yeah.
you're just throwing money away.
and nobody wants to go to Shreveport anyway.
No, Shreveport's oof.
The worst.
Yeah, so I think again, I think it's the content. If the content's good, I mean, or whatever, I mean, the wider the net you can throw, because you never know especially if where you guys are at, if people are rural and they only have the option of watching online, and then they may only come once a quarter or something because it's a longer drive. So I don't know. You never know.
Yeah, I mean, we currently see people that drive from the west side of the county, which can take anywhere. There's some, it's a 30-minute drive. For some, it's like 40, 45. But the thing, we're on the far east side, like we're as far east for as you can go. So it's like, that's the thing, is like we're at the beach. Like our church is like a 5 to 10 minute drive from the beach. So everybody comes this way anyway because we're at the beach, and like there's
Yeah.
always stuff to do like on this side of the county and stuff like that. So
Bro, you could do beach type accounts, or
oh, okay, yeah.
like they're just like that's so niche, but like people even traveling into your town might be like, I don't know your city, like Nassau Beach, and it's just like if you had a Facebook group, like, man, you could.
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly what I was going to say, because so we're planning a vacation right now. We're taking our kids to California. So we're doing Disneyland and we're trying to find a beach to go to. So I literally looked up like Disney with kids Facebook groups and like joined them. And then there was like different beach ones over there as well, where it was like beach with toddlers, different things like that, where you're like different things for like, I've never taken my kids to a beach. I lived in Montana, now I live in the desert. Like I don't know how to do the beach. And so like even like things that are as simple as that might feel like common sense to you guys there, other people don't really know that. So like having something very specific with like tips or whatever is like so cool. And then also I think one of the other things Chris did for like the rules and stuff for these groups is using AI for those, like, because you have to have rules and different things to get in. So if you're like overwhelmed with making the group and figuring out what are the rules, look at a similar group and you can basically steal it, or you can go to like Chat GPT and have them write you specific rules for the type of group that you're making.
Yeah, that's cool.
That way you don't even have to think through that part either.
Yeah. And what you said makes sense, because we're Fernandina Beach is kind of weird. It's like it's a lot of older population, like people come to retire here. But then a lot of people just come to visit. So we'll get people um that it's their first and last time to visit, because they were literally vacationing. They Googled church, we popped up and they came, and then we may not see them again for another year or ever again. So it's really funny that tourists pick our church out of all the churches because we're on an island. So like of all the churches on the island, like tourists pick our church, and we're not the closest to the downtown or the beach. Like we're actually the farthest west on the island, but so what you said makes sense. Like a beach page would make sense because, you know.
Oh, yeah, it's great. That is great. Anybody else? Any other questions about anything?
Let me add these two things real quick about Facebook groups, and I'll just stop. There was a Facebook group with 26,000 people in it. It was called Valley Sneakerheads. And I was like, would I ever use this? And I was like, well, if we ever do merch or do like pop-up events, or like, we'll do stuff like this, like, we could do like a sneakerhead meetup at the church, like after church or something, just like build it in. There are 26,000 people in it. And I asked the guy who ran the group if he'd sell it to me. And he said, yeah, for $500.
What?
And I was like, 26,000 people for $500?
Yes.
I was like, then I could add everyone and be like, hey, everyone, you could join Free Stuff in Phoenix, or you could join Phoenix Foodies. So then you can like a lot of people, this is Wild West. And actually they can actually donate. If they gave it to you, you could give them a tax credit, and they could get write-off on their taxes for however much they value it. If they value it under $5,000, then they don't have to get a someone to basically say the group's worth that much. So anything under $5,000, they can just write off on their taxes if you give them a receipt. And so I offered it to him. He didn't say yes, and then I was like, man, so I haven't pulled the trigger on it, but I'll say like, there's Facebook groups for sale. People don't have any idea like how to utilize them well. The @everyone function is fairly new. And then, probably the biggest Facebook group, or one of the best Facebook groups I'm a part of. It's called CG Chat. It was in a town called Casa Grande. And man, it's wild. It's the craziest thing in most life. It's a lot of it's trashy, but it gives me so much life to be a part of this Facebook group. I look forward to it every day. I'm like, man, what crazy stuff. Like somebody's like, there's cockroaches at Texas Roadhouse. And I'm like, what? So I live for some of these Facebook.
Oh, that's so funny. Yeah, there's actually one here in Fort Worth. It's like the mom Facebook, and it's like in the nicest area too. And I'm not on it obviously, but my wife will tell me some of the funniest stuff that people say and what happens on there, because people they just lose their minds or complaining about something, or I don't know. It's yeah, it's pretty funny.
Yeah.